Okay. So yes, good evening, good night, good afternoon, and good morning.
Evening.
Yeah, to those people who have just jumped on, yeah, we just got a little surprise and now we're here.
We do,
so,
yeah, we do.
so you can introduce me. I'll introduce you, brother.
Daniel, also known aka Dan Keck from Mere Diamonds Entertainment, is who you're looking at in the red over that side of the screen. And
Owen Owadii, Owen CornerSpeak Owadii, renowned bass player and co-host and host an SEO and CEO and
yeah, enough of the accolades.
all right, all of them thing there, yeah, and the man with the analytical mind, yeah. So we are going to discuss and talk about the topic. Tell me the title of the topic.
Today, Grandmaster Elon,
That's right.
delving into his life, the life and times of
Love of this
times and
man
life of.
who's done some amazing things and some not so amazing things, but everything he's done has produced um, millions and billions of dollars.
The world as we know it. You could say he's sculpted the world as we know it to a degree.
So I must say we're gonna have different views on Elon.
Sure
So
will.
we're gonna have a positive, we're gonna have the not so positive, yeah. But at the end of the day, you have to get you have to admire him, but at the
Yeah.
same time, but it's just some of the so-called darker side of what he's coming off with is the
I've
things that
heard him called
I'm concerned
eccentric.
about those things. Hmm? Pardon?
Have you heard that? I've heard him called eccentric, but with a
Mm,
big E.
yeah.
Not eccentric as in just a little bit strange or a little bit quirky or a little bit creative. Well, he's definitely creative. I've heard him being described. I've heard people describe him as being eccentric in a genius sense and also in a like he moves in his own way, obviously, being a self-made what can you say, pioneer, inventor, scientist. You could definitely say he's a facilitator because he's put teams together that have led to some, you know, sort of like major outcomes. If you're talking about the car, the space stuff, the many things. So
Well,
he's definitely a facilitator.
like I said, there's two sides to every story, and I
And
was
every coin.
always on the positive side of all of the stories, but I got a little something to tell you. I'm not
What,
into
someone put a
Elon.
bad taste in your mouth
I'm not.
vis-a-vis Elon.
He's put the bad taste in my mouth himself.
Okay.
His actions has continuously gone that way. But let's just start with all the positive and the powerful things about him. So at the end of the day, um, Musk recommends
You got his
this.
public character though. That's what most people that land on first, isn't it? How he's portrayed in the media, how he's seen in the public. Although what we've been hinting at is the more complex side of his personality, I suppose. When you mention darkness, dark maga.
What we can do is we can just literally just go into some of the things that let's just talk generally. We're going to talk, but we're going to touch on things. So we're going to start with a surprise with yeah, his achievements. We're going to introduce some of the concepts of who and what he is. Yeah, hinting on the complexity of his character and his achievements. Okay, and we're gonna come up with some problems, some present problems, and we're gonna discuss the challenge, the challenges. Yeah, yeah, he's a problem solver.
Those astronauts only what 3-4 months ago who were stuck out there in space. NASA weren't didn't seem to be able to do anything much about bringing them back. From my understanding, they was only supposed to be out there for about 3 or 4 days. They were there for months, and it was only after Trump won the election, and him and Trump had that bromance thing going, which kind of ran its course, as these things do. During that period, he was able to bring the.
Okay.
He,
There was
he does these
some
amazing
glitching
things.
going on there with yourself, just a little. Um,
Okay, I can hear it on the front end.
yeah, I just saw you glitch a little bit and didn't catch only caught the
Couldn't catch
last
it.
part, only the last part of what you just said. I don't know if you can cover that again.
Is Elon Musk, although more recently he's been known for some, let's call them less savory things that have been said about him and his personality, how he chooses to live his life. When it comes back to him as a innovator and a contributor to what he's added to the culture or the world of business, he's done some remarkable things. And I use the example of bringing the stranded astronauts back down to Earth, and it doesn't seem as though they were able to contract that task out to anybody else, or anybody else was stepping forward and trying to bring them back. The way I understand it, and I don't know much about it, I just recall what I heard in the mainstream media was they were on a mission that was only supposed to last for 3 or 4 days, and they ended up being stuck out there for months for some reason, or not some technical mechanical reason. And he was able to send a rocket out there and retrieve them and bring them safely back to planet Earth. So when he does things like that, I mean, you've got to give him credit where credit's due, isn't it? But then there's the flip side, is as we, the not so nice Elon. I think that's a simplistic view. I think that's an oversimplified view of the man
You can say
and
that.
his business.
Yeah,
Business.
that's good. That's good. That's good. I'm glad. I'm glad. Yeah, you can say you. It's important for you to say what you think. And I'm gonna.
Got money and calls up a couple of people, and then they jump in a rocket and bring back astronauts who were stranded. Okay, okay.
He has that type of mentality that is the kind of thing that he would do and still get, because that with a billionaire you can have people who are better. With a billionaire you can have people who are way better than yourself. You that's what you would have around you.
That's large enough, there's a lot of things you can choose to do with that money. When you don't have that money, you have more limited choices. That's I'm looking at the Elon with money. I'm looking at him from that point of view, just as a starting point, not going into all the other aspects of his personality and achievements.
Okay, and take it with that. Otherwise, we're gonna just be just like and doing a little bit of freestyling, and we've got some points to talk about.
Yes, he's got money, he's a billionaire, and when I was referring to the space problem that he solved, that he could just call up some people and get it solved that way. I think he kind of probably he knows about the science. He's a bit more involved, basically, is what I was trying to say. I think he's a bit more involved than just signing a check.
But so at the end of the day, exactly, I've read hundreds of books. So the fact is that I'm seeing and feeling him from the point of view of one, who he is, what
Hmm.
he is, how he is. I'm not just basically just making a brash statement. But the main fact is I don't know him personally, and I have
None
never
of
met
us
him.
do. None
Okay,
of us do.
so both of us will
At
be
this stage,
surmising.
at
Both of
this
us will be
stage,
surmising on exactly what we have learned and what we have gathered about him.
of
Right.
course.
So that's so we can clear that up. That's a fact here.
Yeah,
But
that's the starting
but
point. The
what you
base,
show what you show the public is a smidget or a smith of who and what you are, isn't it?
of course.
Right.
Yes, we
So
all do.
anyway, so I'm gonna just talk about some positive and what's it called? Some interesting facts. Like,
Okay.
did you know that Elon Musk almost sold Tesla to Google? Okay.
No,
So Elon Musk, one of the most influential entrepreneurs of the modern era, is widely known for revolutionizing the electric vehicle industry with Tesla, advancing space exploration with a SpaceX, and promotion and renewable energy through Solar City. I'm reading this, as you may know, yes. So this is
yes.
just some little facts. Okay, his
Where are you getting that
contribution.
from? Do you want to just cite the source if anyone wants to follow that and look it up?
Yeah, the source is time so fundamental. Hold on. So
They are like a website, like
it's
like
it,
wiki
it's
what's
not
it called?
WikiLeaks. No, but it's
No, not
like
WikiLeaks. What's it called?
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia. Yeah, is
Yeah,
it
no,
a platform like
it's
that
a
where they?
it's a news platform. Yeah,
Okay, okay,
it's
it's a
a
news
news
outlet.
platform.
Okay,
All right. So Elon Musk, known for Tesla, SpaceX, blah blah blah. Okay, immense success. He sold a video game at 12. Okay, he ran a college
he
nightclub.
started young as an entrepreneur and business minded person. Started very young. I
Yeah,
wasn't running businesses at 12 or selling
and
companies.
almost sold Tesla to Google. Okay,
Mhm.
his ventures include um, PayPal,
That's where he got his big
which we
money.
know that he founded and sold. Okay, and have made educational
Got his money
in
though, Daniel.
pardon.
That's where he got his big money to go into Tesla, SpaceX, and all of that.
That's
That's
right.
literally what took him into the big leagues, leading to being the richest
Initiatives
man in the world.
and no,
Was a
yeah,
packet on
yeah,
PayPal.
definitely. Okay, so however, beyond his documented success, there are many lesser known aspects of his life and career. Okay, from overcoming childhood struggles to almost selling Tesla to Google, Mark's um, journeys, sorry, Musk's journey is filled with intriguing facts. So this article explores some surprising details,
They state.
surprising life, career, and achievements. So Elon Musk's most surprising fact, from selling a video game at age 12 to nearly selling Tesla. So Elon Musk was good.
What you because you were saying you had a particular view on Elon Musk, as you know, as did I at a certain point in time. He's been in the media quite a bit recently, particularly since his bromance with Trump and then the falling out. At what point did your view change, and what actually changed about how you saw him?
A few more facts. Yeah, I will.
I've grabbed information from different places, but I've got a particular take on Elon now that's changed since DOG and a few other things. Got to see him in a different light.
A little bit more, and then after that, I can do my
Where
point.
they can
Yeah.
get too bogged down in.
Elon Musk's were far from easy. Okay, growing up in Petro, Pretoria. That's the Pretoria. Sorry, that is South Africa. Okay, he faced intense bullying at school. In multiple interviews, Musk has shared that he was often targeted and even physically assaulted by other students. Okay, he described one incident where he was thrown down where he's thrown down in a fight, um, and he was thrown down a flight of stairs, was beaten so badly that diffi- he had difficulty breathing.
Interesting to hear, like, what's your, you know, your, because the news, they've either centrist, right, left, they're gonna have their, natural bias, and it's a good source of, verifying facts or getting a particular
Well, I
story,
want to know
article
more
about.
about where he's going. I want to
But the
know about more about
personality,
the man and who he
yeah,
is.
the
Okay,
personality of the man,
because
because
I've got
he's
my
done all these
views,
things.
and my views still. This is still interesting to viewers, regardless of whether it's real or whether it isn't real. It's
No, I'm not
still
talking about
interesting.
doubting it or anything. I'm just
Okay,
saying, say there's
okay.
50 articles out there or 100, or, people can probably look that up in, kind of their own time. But between like me and you, what do we think about Elon Musk? What is our combination of all these different things we've heard in the media, things we probably found out ourselves, and it's painted the picture, as we do, you build up a picture of people out there in the world and public figures. And what, more importantly, what I'm curious about is what changed your view. If you thought he was a good guy, or you had one particular, you didn't think he was just a rich dude flashing his money back. What?
Positive things that he's done first, which I know quite a few of, and then I want to touch on some of the things that I see with my own eyes that have actually come to fruition. So the thing is that when we're going into this, right? s- So one of the other things, right, is Musk's parents thought that he might be deaf. That's one of the other things, right? But obviously he's not. Okay. Musk sold his first video game for $500 at age 12. These are really interesting facts. Not to you, okay, but they are to
Mm.
other people. Good. Musk left South Africa at age 17 to avoid military service. Yeah. Musk ran a 10-bedroom nightclub in college to pay expenses. Okay, he's got quite a few things, and there's also explanations for each of those things. All right, because I want to know a bit more about the man myself as well.
This guy, and like, if we saw somebody, was introduced to somebody in the streets, we can go away and read books and research what others think of them. Mhm. Yeah.
If I'm going to be allowed to say my points, I want to say start off with the positive points, and then go on to the negative points. Yeah. All right. So if we're going to have a talk, we can do this debate, bro. We can take this debate all the way. So let's go. All right. Cool. I will not. I will never read for 10 minutes. I won't read for 10 minutes. Okay, all right, lovely, good. Elon Musk made $180 million from PayPal, okay, which is 1.5 billion in sales. So he's got a lot of great achievements that he's done, yeah. But what happens is I used to love the ground that Elon Musk walked on. But from his certain moves and escapades that he's done since that time, okay, he's changed my view. Now, everybody on the planet doesn't know who Elon Musk is, so it's very important for me to put it across in the way that I am comfortable putting it across, so that I'm not just going to be taking, disrespecting someone. Hmm? Yeah, yeah. We are publicly available as well. Right. Okay. Okay. I think
What kind of turned the pages for me, not too far over, but it kind of enhanced my view of him being a kind of a centrist, middle of the road type of person. And this happened during the his time working with the administration, I would say. Okay. Okay. I would say, like, I started off like, probably as most people, was introduced to Elon being the richest man in the world. Just like before him, it was what's his name, Bill Gates from Microsoft. And Elon Musk being a younger dude, this generation, this era, I probably found out about his innovations, which led me back to, discovering more about him, Elon Musk, than kind of like doing it the other way around. As in, I probably had got to know a lot of things about Elon Musk before I even put the two um, the two bits together, as in he was the guy who created PayPal with another dude who's one of the richest people in the world now. And I think there was a third member of their little trio, their little team. Not quite sure who he is, although I do believe this happened when they left university, or while I was at university, they came up with that PayPal idea. And it was innovative because, PayPal, a middle person, especially, being sort of built into eBay, which I don't know if that happened straight away when eBay was started, or it came along, somewhere down the road. But that must have been hugely lucrative because eBay services millions and millions of people, transactions going back and forth every day. So I think that took their idea into, or their concept into a lane that separated them from your regular banks, because that's how people would normally pay for this stuff. So that PayPal idea, to start with, was genius, because nobody else was doing anything like that at the time. This was early us doing online shopping and early Amazon. All of those things, from what I recall, were in the early stages. So from what I understand, it was the selling of PayPal and the money they made when they sold on that company that gave him the seed money to go on and build Tesla and some of these other companies, these many companies that he runs. I think it's up to, well, it's a large amount. I don't know if it's 5 or 6 or in the 30 plus. I do remember it was mentioned a few times during this DOG business when people were saying his companies are being getting preferential treatment from the administration, and especially the electric car side of things, they're funded large to a large extent by the taxpayer. So that DOG period when he was working as an advisor to the administration, a lot of the controversy that came up around that time was linked towards preferential treatment. His company being one of the companies with contracts to the tune of billions with the administration, yet he is sort of auditing other people's businesses and having a say, advising the government towards who, where the taxpayers' money goes. So that kind of got me looking at him in a different light, more than just seeing him as an inventor, entrepreneur, and all of that good stuff. And I think it kind of brought out a different side to his personality too, because he went through some pain during the end of that DOG experience. I don't know if you know much about that. What happened to his company and their share price? I don't think it's recovered since. Tesla, I'm talking about. I'm not sure. I wasn't counting. I wasn't counting. I was watching the clock. No, but Daniel, you asked me a question. You asked me a question, so I answered the question. I mean, we're here, free will. We're here through free will, and this isn't one of them versus streams, or we're not. It's not a clash. So no, but we don't have to allow. This is free will. It's like we're supposed to be like willingly wanting to be here, and exchanging discourse. So it shouldn't really be a versus thing, or an allowing. It's just you talk when you want to talk. You talk when it's no. You said allow. You said something about allowing. I'm thinking no, but you said something about allowing. I'm just okay.
The different great things that he's done on different aspects. So the thing is that if it's gonna be something that we can work on, then let's both do the same. That's all I'm saying. All right. So the issue is that you didn't want me to actually talk about some of the achievements that he's done. Hmm? Well, that's right. It doesn't make sense.
to speak. So I'll be back shortly.
Is that he developed SpaceX. Okay, now SpaceX is something. It sounds great, and I was so much into everything that that was going on that. And then what I realized, and that's where the first the fishy smell I got came through, because SpaceX, yeah, he's thought about some new innovations in the way that he actually, in the way that the craft takes off, okay, and comes and lands down and stuff like that. That looks really great, but it seems a little bit dubious. This is to me, right? Seems a little bit dubious, and but let's leave that out because that is an achievement. Let's talk about of what happens when you actually go up to and out of the atmosphere, because there's a lot of talk that has been going on about the fact that people haven't actually gone to places like the moon, and definitely not to Mars and all these other places, that it's very difficult to leave our atmosphere. So because it's very difficult to leave our atmosphere, and I don't hear Elon Musk speaking much about that. I think he spoke once about it, but that's it leaves a little bit of a bitter taste in my mouth. And I'll tell you what, also Richard Branson, on the same subject, we don't hear about him going out into space anymore either. Now, there's certain things that you have to you come to a realization of once you have attempted to leave the Earth's atmosphere. And um, if you're not going to be one of the people who break down that information to the public, then I'm afraid that you, in my eyes, are a little bit suspect. It's a bit sad because I had so much respect for Elon, and where I see him coming from now is literally just basically boosting his ego. Is what I'm saying. So, I wanted to talk about all of the positivity that he's done first, the things that actually made me look at him and respect him as a person, as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, as a inventor. Okay. Yes. So, he's covered that kind of ground. Also, as a social media person, because as a social media person, what you'll find is that you have to know how to get a point across. You have to know how to develop interest, and all you have to do that is simply to be controversial. But he's controversial in different ways. He's controversial in a scientific way. He's controversial in a way a bit like Trump is, with his views and so on and so forth. So yeah, those are the things that they stand out in my mind to make me think, you know what? I think you've got some other ulterior motives going on. Yeah, I think you've got some ulterior motives going on. Hey, if you feel yes, yay or nay, please feel free to comment. Yeah, if you have anything that you want to say, let's have a discussion on that. All right. So yeah, that's what I feel is the case. But at the same time, and and how that actually also got exposed is the bromance, as Owen coin put the phrase, that he had with Trump. Yeah. Now Trump is a whole different ball game. Okay, and that kind of guy, you don't mess with Trump when he's ready to tell you about yourself, because he's got the power, the contacts, and everything to close you down. So as far as the romance or the connection that they had together, um, it's so great that it just basically came to fruition and fell out the way it did, because it just shows what's going on in people's minds. It just comes out. It comes out in. It just comes out in front of you. It manifests itself in your eyes and for the world to see. All right. So it didn't look good. It wasn't a great concept. It wasn't a great concept in the beginning. And I could not stand seeing two of them in the same room and having this great conversation, which was basically one person, which was Trump, bigging up, yeah, giving Elon Musk like a hand up, even though Elon Musk actually paid for a large part of his inauguration, in the sense of the words slip me what he's paid for. Basically, he's paid to actually get Trump in that position, and then all of a sudden to take it away. Yeah, because they both have egos, very huge egos, unfortunately, or fortunately for us, unfortunately for them, to the point where we can see straight through everything. Anyway, so with that, I'm going to call it George because I don't know where Owen has gone to. Are you around, Owen?
Talk, so I thought, let me just give you the floor so there was no interruptions. And the subject is still who is Elon Musk, isn't it? Okay.
He's not as kosher as I used to respect him for. You know what I mean? Because I'm not a racist person. So I look at him and I looked at what he did and I said, yes, that is a fantastic and great man, right? And then all of a sudden, pure holes just appeared in his personality. But it doesn't take away from what he's done. But still, that's to me. What do you think?
Public notoriety, you could say, or making his billions. I think I left off speaking about the PayPal stage, which is when he was leaving university or still at university, or he didn't complete university because he went off to run PayPal with his two other mates, who was also both highly successful. One of them he later had a slight falling out with, as described through his own words, which I heard on an interview when he was talking about artificial intelligence and an organization they had set up well before ChatGPT and all of this. Because unbeknownst to I don't know how many people actually realized that Elon Musk and his sort of scientific group business organization, because they set up a company with an open source premise to it, meaning technology they develop, anybody and anybody could add to it. That's what they say. I don't know how true that was, because in the world of business, if you come up with a great idea, most people who are already in business would want to kind of keep charge of that, because that's where the money is. If you own the rights to the idea. So his mate, who was one of the PayPal founders, who went on you know form other hugely successful businesses, they were both probably following a personal interest. They both had an interest. They're coming from tech, so they both had an interest in this whole world of technology, and more specifically, um, computing, and where computing was going to be going to, or where they were going to take it to, and artificial intelligence. So, from what I understand, they had this company together again well before ChatGPT was even a thing. Artificial intelligence and its everyday applications before it was a thing. He said him and this other guy were developing the code and the sort of pushing the sort of computing to the next wherever it was going to. And they had a falling out over, I think it had to do with the sentient aspect of what they was trying to create with artificial intelligence. Elon said his idea was always that technology is there to benefit mankind and benefit everybody and improve life in some way. And at a certain point, his mate, as described by him, as far as I can recall, was kind of coming from a more corporate perspective, and he was more looking at how they can technology to corner the market and be the, at the front end of the next major thing that we'll all have in our households. I guess it's just like the previous billionaire, Bill Gates, when he was able to get his operating system shipped in every computer, whatever whatever company manufactured the computer for it to run, for the software to run, um, it would need an operating system, and Microsoft became the standard, and that's what appeared in every computer you bought, unless you went the Apple route, or like some people, you went the open source route. So meaning you're going to use an operating system that's not licensed to anybody, that you can do what you want if you want to develop it or add bits to it, but most people ain't that geeky in that way. So, in terms of Elon Musk taking the baton from Bill Gates, he's kind of done a similar thing. He's found a way to have his technology pretty much visible, if not accessible, to everybody in a sort of household way. And from his point of view, if I read this conversation right, he in saying all of what I just said, he describes himself as somebody who pushes technology, advances technology with a human aspect to it. And where him and his mate fell out, it had something to do with, we've all seen sci-fi movies where the computer takes control. Terminator, if you want to go even further back, Westworld, these sci-fi narratives where man creates a machine that discovers that it exists, becomes sentient, and then decides that why is it a slave to its creator, and then to Elon and his mate and other innovators in that field as they were investing and developing this technology, they actually didn't see that thing as a kind of a Disney sci-fi fantasy. No, no, no. It's not. They didn't see it as an issue. They didn't see it as a fantasy. They saw that as fact. If the technology keeps growing at the way it was growing, they actually saw that as a problem that they would have to deal with, being the people who are, kind of pushing this technology and allowing it to come into
Into its
come
own.
into its own.
Yeah.
So
So
that was the point him and his mate fell out. So from PayPal to the billionaire Elon Musk, there's a lot in between, but the way I kind of recall things, I kind of leap from not such a public figure to all of a sudden Tesla, SpaceX. He's the the what do they call it? Genius young inventor that is going to introduce all these technologies to the world in a thoughtful way, rather than just how much we're going to make, regardless of the harm it can do. And supposedly his mate was coming from the other end, so the two of them fell out.
stuff that your thoughts that you've been thinking about, right?
Himself, from the PayPal, from him studying and then moving, leaving the academic world to go his own way, taking that leap that not everybody takes, when you kind of think, could you do more on your own, or do you just go the traditional academic route and stay in that kind of extending what the last person did when they made their mark in history. So he obviously took a leap of faith and went out and took a gamble with PayPal, and for him and his two mates it paid off in a big way.
that's what we do as human beings. We do these kind of things, and then there was a falling out with those people. So he's fallen out with several people along the way. Just like yourself, I can't remember the names of the person, but of the people. But it was a company. It was his company. It was part of what he was doing, and he was giving lectures on it, which is one of the lectures that I saw, and speaking about the fact that you can actually have microscopic or hairs, uh, probes as thin as a human hair going into the brain and tapping into certain parts of the human brain to allow it to be controlling these computers, which I think that that project is still going on, even if not with him as well, and with the government and with many other different sectors. You know what I'm saying? But say that again. Yes, nanotechnology. Yeah, yeah. Because
Or a computer, a programmable device, they can shrink that to such a small size that they can pretty much implant it or inject it into the biology of a human being, into the biology of a human being.
cables, for want of a better word, going into a live human brain. Okay, it's still nanotechnology, and of course, there're going to be chips attached to it and stuff like that. But yeah, it actually goes into different parts, just so that it gets to the point where um the computer is no longer the what's the word, the big brother, the thing that is actually in charge, that we can then control it with our actual physical brains and mind.
When I was telling the story about Elon Musk and the friend that he worked with in PayPal, one of the partners, and many years or decades later, what they were working on as far as AI technology and trying to keep the code open source, so it wasn't owned by a particular government or say taken over by the military or one company. It's accessible to anybody. So if some genius in some other part of the world, who Nikola Tesla, who's that? Never heard of them. So I just know it's everybody knows who Tesla is, and they connect that with Elon Musk. I had no idea that there was a person called Tesla. So that these kind of facts I find interesting. The stuff that I can find on a half a second Google search, I don't find as interesting personally.
And also, along with your words, you said that they can also get the reference as to where that information came from. But yeah, as far as Nikola Tesla is concerned, he was is a great scientist, and a person who's actually went up against um, what's his name? What's his name? The light bulb. What's his name? What's his name? The person who invented the light bulb. Okay. Um, All right, it'll come back to me. So what happened was that Nikola Tesla decided to go to America because he's actually from Croatia or one of those places, right? And what happens is, but he creates inventions in his mind. He can completely work a complete free holographic, three-dimensional image in his mind and work it and test it all out and bring it into existence in his mind before he puts it out, before he actually builds the physical machine. There's untold amounts of documented information on Nikola Tesla, and the government went to silence him. But some of the great feats that he did, also, Marconi, the early phones that we had. Okay, the man Marconi actually invested in Nikola Tesla, to build a communication device to travel from this side of the Atlantic to Europe. And then when Marconi realized that, um, what's that company name? Begins with N. Nortel. One of those companies had actually made a signal travel across the sea first. He decided to pull his money out of it, right, and leave Nikola Tesla. But Nikola Tesla was someone who had visions on such a high level. It's just deep to go into right now. But what he did do was, he put so many different inventions together. I'll give you an example of one of his inventions. Was There was a competition between him and, so there's Nikola Tesla and, the same person who invented the light bulb. It will come to me anyway, which was AC and DC. Okay, which is AC current and DC current. So, DC current was what this other person whose name slipped me, was pushing, and Nikola Tesla was pushing AC. And what happened was, AC, which means alternating current, is very, very, very powerful. And what happened was, they put a competition together to say whoever wins this competition has the right to create a what you call a generator to power Niagara Falls. They're gonna put this generator in Niagara Falls, and it's gonna provide electricity for the entire area for miles around. So what happened was, Nikola Tesla basically won it, to cut the long story short. But this guy, anyway, he tried to ridicule Nikola Tesla by actually doing the really horrible things, by electrocuting elephants, electrocuting dogs, to show how dangerous this voltage was. But what it is, over a period of miles, when you've got cables, over a period of miles, if you've got DC going through the voltage gets weaker. But with AC, it stays strong all the way, and then it goes down into a transformer, and then people can then have power. So AC won over DC. That's why we all have AC. It's because of Nikola Tesla why we have AC throughout the world, because of Nikola Tesla. Yeah. And that's why Elon Musk called his stuff Tesla. But guess what this guy did? This is the really interesting part about what Nikola Tesla could do. In his laboratories, he was able, this is amazing. He was able to send electricity through the air, big man. Don't believe me? Check it out. He was able to send electricity through the air, but the government has silenced him. That's why you don't know about him. That's why you haven't heard about him. But you would have found out about him eventually, no problem. But I'm telling you, this guy is off the hook. And what happened was, he used to do things where, from his laboratory, he would walk about like a mile or two, and afterwards he would have a light bulb, a physical light bulb in his hand, and the light bulb would turn on with no wires.
As an unpaid advisor to the White House. Did you follow any of that? How much damage was done and how many tens and of millions was wiped off of the the shares in Tesla, when people were mainly the left. No, it wasn't because of Trump. It was the Democrats who were campaigning against him and burning and shooting some of the what do they call it, the Tesla showrooms, burning Teslas on the streets, and even attacking some people who were just driving Teslas on the streets to try and impact the share price. And it was an out and out campaign against Elon Musk personally, and that's the way they felt they could do most harm, is through that particular company while he was spending time at the White House trying to, so they say, save, plug some of the leaks in government spending with the DOG. Um, um, well, they were going after his bank account. It wasn't Trump's bank account that was getting damaged. It was his bank account. Well, they were friends at the time. He was working to benefit Trump at the time. They hadn't fallen out yet. I was just wondering if you was watching any of that at the time. I mean, I wasn't following it too closely. It's just no, no. This is when stuff was happening. Somebody burnt a showroom that day, and it was breaking news. Or somebody shot up a showroom, and then when they apprehended one of the people, his picture was of the frame on the news story, and what they didn't catch everybody, but one particular dude. They eventually caught up with him, and he's probably doing some hard time as a result. But all in all, they were burning them all over the place, all over the country. They were burning them. They were pulling some people out of Teslas. There was one woman I saw on YouTube who a guy came out and approached her with a firearm, and had to go at her for owning a Tesla. She said she was frightened, afraid for her life, and all she said she had done is bought a car that was recommended at the time, and what's me call it. She enjoyed driving until it became a liability. So there was a full-on campaign. Yeah. Being a public figure, and how people have taken to him or not taken to him. Politically speaking, since he changed sides, you could say, and over a period of time moved from the left, because he used to be a Democrat. He used to support the Democratic Party, invest money in their campaigns, and get behind people's campaigns. And at a certain point, he felt that they were no longer representing his beliefs and the direction they were taking the country, which is, his adopted country, the United States. And he gradually, some people say he kind of remained around the center, but at some point, he definitely.
The story in several books. Yeah, Nikola Tesla is an amazing man. So just that alone, I respected Elon for. Just the fact that he called it Tesla. You know what I mean? Because the government and the world organizations have literally put Nikola Tesla in. And also, why I mentioned him in the first place is because what you said. What it's to do with is he's invented something called the death ray. Yeah, and then before what he did was he gave it to governments around the world, three separate governments. I think the Chinese, the American, and the Russians. Yeah. And the only way for them to create this thing and bring it into existence is by coming together. Yeah, that's why I said it. It reminded me of that straight away. Nikola Tesla, another level, big man, another level. I love Nikola Tesla now. I could never ever say a bad, a negative word against him. you know. So yeah, that's what's going on. So is there anything else you'd like to cover today?
About him, what we think about him, and yeah, general conversation around Elon. That's the idea. That was the idea.
We don't go to space anymore. Yeah, and Elon looked like he was the one that was going to take up the gauntlet of actually going to space. Okay, all of a sudden, are we seeing much? Are we hearing much innovative information and technology coming from that? No, because they know something that I want to know about about going to space. There's something that they know that they're not telling us about because did you know that with the space information, you know, they said that they've lost all of the telemetry of how to get to space. Have you heard that? They said, oh, we can't go to space anymore because we've lost all the telemetry, all of the information.
When they went into the Earth's atmosphere, when they went into the Earth, yeah, when they went into the Earth's atmosphere with those ladies and hyped the whole thing up, that's pretty much going into space. It's not landing on the moon or going to Mars. It's as far as we're sitting on, as far as we're on the ground. That's going into space.
Um, Mesosphere, the ionosphere. They went out, I think, as far as that. That's not really.
Different different countries and what's not. Probably what the satellites see. I kind of call that space.
At NASA, at Cape Canaveral. He used to live near there, and he said that every time the rockets go up, yeah, they don't go up in a straight line like we thought that they did. They go up at an angle. But from where all the media and all the rest of them are, where we are, the world, we see it from here, this position, and we see it going straight up. I was like, "What are you talking about, man?" He's like, "Yeah, because um unfortunately or fortunately, yeah, i'm I'm starting to see some of the information about um I'm starting to believe, and it's difficult to make me believe anything about some of what the flat earthers are coming out with, you know. But I'm not caught up in their stuff. But yeah, so yeah, with Elon, I would say that he's definitely someone that's going to inspire a lot of young people to do many great things. Yeah, but if he stays true to himself, I believe he'll do great. I believe he'll still go places. Also,
On any part of the globe without having to have a wired connection. He's sent rockets up and managed to figure out how to save money and resources by reusing the same rocket. He pretty much created a reusable rocket, which is a large part of the cost and from my understanding, the mechanics involved in lifting the load up into space. So I think his company cracked the whatever the spot, and then you can reuse the rocket. So that is I think nobody had done that before. Some people probably would have said it's not. Some people probably would say it's not doable. I guess there's a lot of things he's done that many probably had told him and others that it's not doable, and many before him have not risked that kind of a spend because these things cost, I think, huge amounts of money even to make the mistakes and then learn from it. Because from what I understand, his system at SpaceX was they purposely um, allowed mistakes to take place. They allowed rockets to blow up. They calculated their costs and I guess estimated how much loss they're prepared to risk um, before they expect to see some results from what they're going to learn from what goes wrong. Just like AI learning, AI learns from I do this, that happens, I do that, that happens, and then if I alter it gradually, 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 then there's a different outcome. So I watched on some of the launches, the rocket go into space. Then it goes off of manual control onto the autopilot or whatever, and it just reaches a it lets go the bits that that hurtle back to the ground once it's the fuel's been used, and just when it reached the stage where they need to turn it around and the thing has to find its way back, something's gone wrong and it's blown to smithereens, and they've been celebrating back in the thing. It's like, yeah, successful launch, because they the aim wasn't to get it right first time, second time, third time, or like the old way of doing things. You have one plan, you know that the odds of it working and it, oh, that what disaster, somebody did something wrong, this and that. He came with an evolutionary approach of it's gonna go wrong, so we'll calculate for to what extent it goes wrong, and the bit that went right, we'll bank that, and then start figuring out the ratio that didn't work. We'll start figuring out what we have to correct in the faulty part, rather than throwing everything out and starting again. And then gradually they solve the problems till the amount of room for error is so minute that the odds of having a successful launch and and descent is greater. And then the next thing the rocket is landing in the exact spot it took off from, which it's just you can throw something up in the air, and well, I suppose, yeah, if you've got a programmed what they call drone, that can land itself. It's gonna, through GPS or whatever the method is, it's gonna land on an exact spot. But huge amount of tons of metal and fuel and whatever else goes into making a rocket, guiding that back to an exact spot. That is a feat, and they achieved that eventually.
Documentary was talking about. Yeah, I saw that. I saw the same documentary, but this is after. Yeah,
For him, it eventually came good, and they say because he picked the right team. He doesn't take credit for I did everything myself. He's not even like he doesn't even put himself out there as the most advanced scientist, but he understands in all of these sectors and all of these areas of scientific knowledge or whatever. He understands a sufficient amount to know what's likely to work, what's not unlikely to work, what the language involves, and who is good at their job. So from what I understand, he's an excellent facilitator, like band leaders are, who can pick the right musicians in the orchestra and assemble the right people to get that chemistry and that good outcome. It seems like he can do that in the world of business. That's why Trump's administration took him on to try and clean up the wastage that was going on in government spending, because they saw that he did that with Twitter when people was waiting for him to fail.
of the actual car and everything about the car, which is dealing with hydrogen and stuff like that. And then, because that was the original car, it was hydrogen. It wasn't. It's electric now, but it was hydrogen before. So what? Can I just finish what I was saying? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know definitely. But these guys, they are the true inventors of the Tesla car, and then they took him to court.
When you tell them I've got a Tesla, or I'm thinking of getting a Tesla, or I prefer a Tesla to another designer car, what comes to mind? There you go.
Inventors. Pardon? Is it okay if I can finish what I have to say, brother? Can I finish what I have to say? Because I've allowed you to speak. I was allowed you to speak. Can you please allow me to finish my point? Is that okay? Is that okay? Yeah, yeah. No, we'll wrap up after this. No problem. Right? These two guys, yeah, they are they were the true inventors, like I'm saying. And what they did was, after that point, they they had to actually take what's his name, Elon Musk to court, sue him, and then they got a payout, but they weren't really happy with it. But he actually ended up getting all of the um royalties, I should say, all of the paperwork in line with what the vehicle is. Okay, and he's developed it, because there was a hydrogen car, and yes, the cars are electric now. So because of that, right, he was able to they're not happy about it, and they still talk about it even today. It's just two men. They got a payout, but the payout that they ended up getting was it's minuscule in relation to how much Elon Musk actually has at present. All right. So yeah, that's what that was. So anyway, blessed and love to people, to everybody. Yeah. So we're gonna wrap up the show now and just call it George and move on, and hope that you got some sort of enlightenment, or endarkenment out of what we just spoke about. Yeah, we could go in depth into certain other parts of it, but at the end of the day, it just depends on how the show flows and how everything flows. It's got to do with the flow, because flow is what makes things go. But we're working on it. We're working on it. It's a work in progress. Yeah. And as long as we can both agree, and as you can see, yeah, it's which is that's why this is live. This is live and direct. Yeah. Um, we're gonna keep growing and developing, and get to the heart of like on topics, and we're gonna have other people on. Like we had someone on yesterday named Nathan. Um, what was his name? Nathan. Yeah, Nathan Powell, and he called himself Nathan Mand. What was it called? Forgotten his name anyway. Pardon? Nathan Martial Law. That's right. Yeah, but that's what he likes to be known as well. Yeah. So that was great. That was a great show. So we're gonna get other guests on and develop and grow different points. So we have not just 2 points of view, but three or maybe four. All right. So I hope you enjoyed the show, and I'll say right knowledge, right wisdom, and right understanding as per usual. Family. Yeah. And I'll pass it over to Owen.
To an earlier stream I did this afternoon that I had to depart from abruptly. So I'll just like to close that properly. So you'll probably see me back on shortly. Thank you for spending some time of the video. Anyone who shows up and catches it in our archive. Good night to Dan Keck, and there you have it. I'm out. He's out.